100,000. That is the number of searches Google processes every single second. Yeah, every single second that ticks by. It's absolutely staggering when you really think about it. I mean, just while I finished saying that sentence, literally hundreds of thousands of people across the globe typed something into that familiar little white search bar. We're talking people looking for dinner recipes, stressing over medical symptoms, checking random historical facts, or, just trying to figure out the name of that one actor in that one movie. The sheer scale of this whole operation is honestly kind of impossible for the human brain to fully wrap itself around. But that is exactly what we're going to try and do. Welcome to This Explainer, where we are diving deep into decoding the mystery of Google search. Look, we all use it every single day, right? We completely take it for granted. You pull out your phone, you type in "best pizza near me," and boom, millions of results appear before you can even blink. But here is the real puzzle we get to unpack today. How exactly does a computer sort through billions of web pages and magically serve up the perfect answer in less than half a second? It totally feels like magic, but as you're going to see, it's actually just an absolute masterpiece of engineering and organization. Now, before we really get into it, think about this for a second. Does Google actually search the entire internet every time you hit enter? Well, the answer to that might completely blow your mind. In fact, this is probably the single biggest myth out there about how the web actually works. So definitely stick with me to the end of this explainer, because once we uncover what is really happening behind the scenes, it's going to change how you look at the internet forever. And it perfectly explains why you get your answers so incredibly fast. Okay, to understand the massive problem Google faced in the early days, I want you to imagine walking into the biggest library humanity has ever built. We aren't talking about a few thousand books. We're not even talking about millions. We are talking about billions and billions of books, stretching out on endless shelves for literally as far as the eye can see. Now, imagine walking right up to the librarian and saying, "Hey, please find me every single book in this building that mentions artificial intelligence." If that poor librarian had to start at shelf number 1, pull out the very first book, read it from page 1, and do that for every single book, man, it would take lifetimes, years and years of reading. By the time they finally found your pizza recommendation, the restaurant would have been closed for decades. When the internet just exploded in size, Google faced this exact same nightmare. Searching the live web every single time a user asked a question was totally impossible. They had to come up with something much, much smarter. So, to solve this seemingly impossible library problem, Google basically built an army of web crawlers. You can think of these as tireless, friendly little automated robots that constantly travel from website to website. They act almost like digital explorers, mapping out this vast, constantly expanding, totally unknown world. They read the text, they look at the images, they figure out what the page is actually about, and then, this is key, they find the links on that page and use them as bridges to travel to the next one. And this process, it never ever stops. Literally right now, while you are listening to this explainer, Google's web crawlers are out there in the wild, discovering brand new websites, reading news articles that were published just 5 minutes ago, and constantly updating their massive map of the digital globe.
But what do these little crawler robots actually do with all that info? Well, they don't just read it and forget it. They bring every single drop of it back to create the ultimate internet cheat code, the index. Basically, the index is a giant, hyper-organized, searchable database containing billions of web pages. Remember our impossible library from a minute ago? Google solved the reading problem by creating an index. It's exactly like when you're looking for a specific topic in a massive, heavy textbook. You don't sit down and read the whole textbook cover to find one concept, right? No way. You flip right to the index at the back, find your word, and see exactly which page it's on. Google has essentially done this for the entire internet. They have done all the grueling, incredibly hard work of reading and categorizing absolutely everything long before you even touch your keyboard.
Okay, so they have an index, but having the index is really only half the battle. And that brings us to a whole new, super complex problem. Let's say you type in "how to tie a tie." Google goes to its massive index and instantly finds, 2 million web pages that have instructions for tying a tie. If millions of websites answer the exact same question, how on earth does Google decide who gets the coveted number 1 spot on page 1 and who gets buried way back on page 50 where literally no one will ever find them? This is where the true brilliance of the whole system kicks in. Because suddenly, just finding the words isn't enough anymore. You have to find the absolute best words. To sort through those millions of matching pages, Google's algorithm rapidly fires through hundreds of what they call signals in a literal fraction of a second. It's asking a bunch of rapid-fire questions. Does this page actually answer the query thoroughly and accurately? Is the source trustworthy? Because, let's be real, you definitely do not want medical advice from some random guy's blog. You want it from a verified hospital or medical journal. It also asks, Is the website fast? Because nobody has the patience for a slow, clunky page to load. Is it mobile friendly? Since we do most of our searching on our phones nowadays, the page really needs to look good on a tiny screen. And maybe the biggest one, do other highly trusted websites link to this page? You can think of a link kind of like a vote of confidence. If prestigious universities and major news outlets are linking to a page, Google's algorithm sees that as a massive green flag for quality. So the system isn't just treating this like a high school popularity contest, it's basically a highly advanced prediction engine, mathematically calculating which specific page is going to help you the most. And here is the coolest part. That prediction engine is incredibly personal. Have you ever noticed that if you and a friend are sitting right next to each other on the couch and you search the exact same phrase, you might actually get totally different results? That's because Google doesn't just look at the web pages, it looks at your specific context. It checks your physical location. If you type best restaurants, it immediately knows you mean restaurants down the street from your current zip code, not some five-star place on another continent. It looks at your language settings. It looks at the device you're holding, maybe serving up app-based results if you're on your phone or desktop software if you're on a laptop. It even takes your previous searches into account to get a better feel for your personal interests. The algorithm is dynamically working behind the scenes to make every single search as personal, relevant, and helpful as possible for the specific human being typing the words. All right, remember that huge myth we talked about at the very beginning of this explainer? The one I told you to stick around for? Most people walking down the street honestly believe that when they hit enter, Google beams a signal out that physically scans the entire live internet in real time to find their answer. But here is the massive reality check. It doesn't search the live internet at all, not even a little bit. It searches its own constantly updated index. It searches a pre-built, massive database that was meticulously gathered, organized, and ranked by its army of crawlers long before you ever even had your question. This single, mind-bending shift in perspective, moving from searching the live, chaotic web to searching a pre-organized index, is literally the sole reason why your most complex questions are answered in mere milliseconds instead of hours. So it really all boils down to this. You are not searching the internet. You are searching one of the largest and smartest indexes humanity has ever created. Just think about the absolutely wild journey we just explored together. Every single search you make isn't some spontaneous magic trick. It's the final step in a massive, ongoing operation that started months or even years ago. Armies of automated robots explored the digital globe. Huge computer banks organized billions of pages into a searchable index. Highly sophisticated algorithms evaluated hundreds of invisible signals to rank those pages for quality. And then, in less time than it takes you to blink, the perfect answer appears right on your screen. So the next time you type a question into that little bar, take a second to appreciate the sheer scale of the engineering making it happen. But honestly, it also leaves us with a pretty massive question for the future. As artificial intelligence starts generating its own unique answers, instead of just pointing us to existing web pages, what exactly happens to those billions of explorers mapping the internet? Something to think about. Thanks so much for exploring this with me, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.